Now that King Delmar's seated, we'll open the meeting. We'll welcome all our invited guests and elected officials and call this meeting to order. Recognizing elected officials in the audience, I see the Mayor of Hiram, Doris Debbie. Any other elected officials? Am I missing anybody? Oh, Clerk Trudy Shelton, thank you for being here. Thank you all. I'll remind you to turn off all Nextel cell phones and pagers, as it does interrupt our production. Do we have any citizens wishing to speak? Thank you very much. For our invocation and pledge, Pastor Thomas Dixon, Associate Minister and Director of the Senior Ministry at Pilgrim Baptist Church, FCA Chaplain at Hiram High School. Would you come to the lectern and lead us in our prayer and in our pledge? Would you stand with me if you're able?
Let us pray. Most gracious Father, we come to you this morning as humble as we know how, giving you the honor, the praise, and the glory. God, please forgive us for our sins and our shortcomings, and thank you for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Father, I pray that your divine favor will fall upon this meeting today and on each commissioner that is present. Bless them with your wisdom, your knowledge, and power as they make decisions for this county. Lord, bless every family represented here today. Bless Paulding County as it grows, because we know that all power rests in your hands alone. May your presence always reside with this Board of Commissioners, and may your presence always reside with Paulding County. Father, thank you for this day, for this hour, and for this moment. Please watch over us and keep us until we see each other again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome, sir.
You're welcome to stay. Minutes, the May 27th, 2014 work session minutes, and the May 27th, 2014 board meeting minutes, and the June 5th, 2014 special call meeting minutes, and the June 18th, 2014 public meeting minutes are available for your review. Under announcements, the Board of Commissioners would like to present the Public Safety Appreciation Award to Communications Officer Lisa Paris with the Paulding County E911. Lisa, if you'll come forward up here in the front. Right here. Stand before the firing squad. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm going to read a few things about you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my pleasure to present Lisa as this month's recipient of the Public Safety Appreciation Award. Lisa began her employment with the 911 Center on April 1st of 2013, so she's been here just a little over a year, and she's currently finishing her final phase of training. It's not often that trainees actually get this award, because during their first year, they're usually finding their place on shift and fitting in and learning their way around, but Lisa is an exception to that. So she kind of has public safety in her blood. Her dad worked for the Sheriff's Department. Her mom, I think, used to work for the Sheriff's Department. She may still. But, okay, the clerk's office. So they have public safety and government in their blood. So normally I would sit up here and tell you the reasons that she won this award, go through her personnel file and that kind of stuff. But what I want to do today is let you hear what her coworkers said about her, which is why she got the award. So these are some quotes from her coworkers. Lisa has an overall positive attitude and consistent performance. She's been very flexible during her training, is very adaptable, and is a team player. Lisa is a perfect recipient for this award. She's proven her dedication to the 911 Center and serving her community. She always shows up for work ready for work, and has built good relationships with her coworkers as well as our user agencies. She's professional and compassionate with callers. Her positive attitude and willingness to pitch in wherever able make her a pleasure to work with. She's a great asset to Paulding County. Lisa's attitude is one that we should all strive to have. She's friendly, sweet, and calm. She studies nonstop and has the amazing ability to build a rapport with callers and co-workers alike. And then finally, Lisa seems to always look for the positive no matter the situation. She maintains a pleasant manner when dealing with the public, her co-workers, and on the radio. She is very attentive and studies her materials to keep her up to date on any changes in policy. She's a problem solver, and when providing feedback, she has empathy for the caller. And she has built a good rapport with her coworkers and her colleagues. So these are the reasons that Lisa was chosen to receive this award, and I think it comes better from her coworkers than it would from me, because her peers actually were the ones that, when they found out she was getting the award, they stepped up and said, we've got some things to say about her. So, she's a great example of an employee and meets the highest standard of a public safety telecommunicator. So thank you for the job that you do.
You have parents with you? Yeah. Come on up.
Is that water from crying or rain?
Both.
Jody trained her well.
Y'all want to say anything? You may want to.
No, we're just proud of her.
Thank you for the whole family. It's a great job. I appreciate you. The Board of Commissioners would now like to congratulate the Paulding County Finance Department for receiving a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Finance Reporting. This Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. Tabitha, I'm going to ask you to step over the lectern and introduce your team, and have the whole team, if you would, to come up here in the front and line up across the... We just had a birthday party. Y'all know who you are. Come on down. And let me tell you something. They eat good. I went and ate with them yesterday. It's Tabitha's birthday party.
They like attention as much as I do.
You can tell.
Come on down.
And look, they're all color coordinated.
That's right. We planned this, we planned it about 2 minutes ago. GFOA offers the Certificate of Financial Reporting each year, and it's a lot of work. It's combined effort of all of us to make sure that we get things right throughout the year. And we submit our comprehensive annual financial report, and that's where the judging takes place. And we've received this award for, I believe, 19 years.
Wow.
Was the 2013 award, and we apply each and every year in the fall or right after our CAFR is completed. So this is a finance team, and all but one, we're missing one today. So, and I want to thank them.
You want to introduce
for
them, or
their
you
work.
want to introduce themselves?
I'll introduce them. Kathy in accounts payable, Joe in purchasing, Joe Hagler in purchasing, April Myers in the water system and internal audit, Tricia Lippum, she's our newest addition in accounts payable, and Michelle Lipstrew in payroll and accounts receivable.
Come over here and let's get your picture in this, and let's give them a hand. Even though the tallest person gets front of Tom.
Thank y'all.
Mike, anything you want to add to what this team does to help us?
They help me keep my sanity. You know, the one thing about having Tabitha and her group run the finance department of Paulding County is it keeps me out of there, and that's a good thing. You know, you have absolute confidence in somebody that's been doing it as long as Tabitha, and she is the most capable employee that Paulding County has, and we are very, very blessed to have her.
Thank you, Tabitha. Appreciate you. giving all kinds of awards out today. The Board of Commissioners would like to recognize Employee of the Month, Olita Laird. Olita, would you come forward?
Good morning, Commissioner.
Does that mean husband not here to
No,
stand with?
he was on the call. Well, he had to go to the library.
He did that on purpose. We appreciate you giving Ms. Alita this recognition, and I got a few words I'd like to say. I nominated Ms. Alita Laird for Employee of the Month. I've been working over in the Paulding County Clerk of Court's office in the Civil Department for about 6 months. And all the staff in the office has been very helpful in the training procedures of my job. But Ms. Alita is in our department, and she is always very dedicated. She's ready to put 100% into her performance and to assist each of us in our department. She's very conscious of her duties with her position in helping others. When we are slammed with cases, with court and phone calls, she's always right there going from cubicle to cubicle asking people how she can help out once her performance is done. She does her responsibilities and is there, like I said, to help the public, to help the staff, and she also works wonderful as a team partner. Alita started as a part-time employee and was made full-time in November of 2009. She does many duties, such as she does our adoptions, she does accounting procedures, processing cases, preparation for court, and answering civil-related phone calls from the public. She is a valuable asset to us employees in our office, to the public, and she's also a wonderful person. And we as a department are so privileged to have her as a coworker and as a friend. So I appreciate you guys recognizing her. She's an outstanding employee. So thank you very much.
Everybody in that office want to come stand with me? She gets combat pay for living with Mike later. Thank you, lady. You want to say anything?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Like just a quick second to talk about a Georgia barbecue that we had out at the airport this weekend. It recognized our military, and they raised money for charity, and I think gave about $7,000 away. So it was a great event, a great competition, and I tested the food, and it was absolutely fabulous. So it was a good time had by all. There are no invited guests, but Commissioner Carmichael wanted to say a few words this morning and read from something he'd read out of Georgia Training.
I don't know if y'all ever read this magazine. It covers anything and everything going on in Georgia, whether it's the fact that we're very business-minded, the award that we got through Governor Deal's recognition. Here's this month's, and one of the publishers is Neely Young. I just wanted to read a couple of paragraphs out here. I've tried to describe from my experience, and it's about confidentiality. And I've tried to describe as the flight manager for the state's flight operation, we couldn't even put the name of passengers on the manifest or the name of the company that we might be flying to a city, a county in Georgia that might be interested in bringing in a company and therefore jobs and more revenue. Economic development authorities have been under fire in some quarters of our state for operating in secret. They are independent bodies established in all 159 Georgia counties to help recruit industry that will improve the tax base in their communities. A bill was floated in the legislature last year to make the authorities more transparent or open to the public. While this sounds noble, it is ill-advised. If the bill had passed, economic development would have been killed in Georgia. Companies that might want to move here from another state don't want their home communities to know they're considering a move. They require any county under consideration to sign a non-disclosure agreement to keep negotiations out of the public eye for a period of time. you can read the whole article, that's just a couple of paragraphs. But it's something that we just have to be aware of. It's the way companies operate. And it's not always desirable to us as citizens, but that's the way it functions.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Bid awards, award to the low bidder Hardy Family Ford in the amount of $71,957 to replace an F-350 service truck with an F-650 service truck for the Water System Department using the state contract pricing program. Tapman.
This is a replacement truck. It was in the budget for the 2014 year for the water system. And we did use the state contracting pricing program as far as comparison, but the state contract price was actually $73,000. And Tim Ashton, our fleet management director, reached out to Hardy, and Hardy offered the vehicle at $71,957. So we're recommending award for to Hardy for $71,957.
Michael, you want to handle exactly what this product does for us?
Yes, this truck is used on our leak crews. What it does is pull a mini excavator around the whole time. That's the reason this is going from the F-350 up to this 650. 350 doesn't last under those conditions.
Okay. Any questions?
I've been criticized in the past for not asking questions about trucks. So that's all we're using it for is in the water department, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Tabitha smiles, she understands where I'm headed, and Michael and I have always had a good relationship, but this water department truck has nothing to do with anything at the airport. We're not landing space shuttles or anything out there, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
We have 5 leak crews now, and we're going to F-650s on all of them for those same purposes.
So there's nothing this truck does that you're not telling me.
It is 100% maintenance.
You're telling me everything that this truck does, Mike. I'm just making clear, making sure. I appreciate it.
Reports from committees and departments. Chuck Rand with a project update on the status of the new Georgia State Patrol Post, the Department of Driver Services facility, and the Paulding Forest Management. You got a bunch to cover.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, I do, and I'll just take them one at a time. We'll have a little bit of time for discussion, take any questions you may have as we enter into it. The first updates on the Georgia State Patrol Post. As y'all recall, back in June of last year, there was a resolution that the Board of Commissioners passed that signified the need of the Georgia State Patrol Post in Paulding County. After the resolution was passed, staff met with Georgia State Patrol to further define the project and ultimately select a viable location. Several locations in the county were evaluated, but the water system building off Bill Peru Parkway became the selected best fit, because again, it meets the size requirements, their future needs, as well as there is an already ongoing project to consolidate facilities for the water system. Again, the water system runs their business and a portion of their operations from this facility. The Board of Commissioners issued a letter of intent for the project in February of this year that set the basis of understanding between Paulding County and the Department of Public Safety, and subsequently a resolution was then issued by the Department of Public Safety on May 8th of this year. And what that resolution allowed is that the Commissioner of Public Safety can negotiate the terms of the lease agreement directly with the county. We have received the draft language. County attorney is looking over that. We're through our first draft of it to send back to them. And again, I'm certain that they'll have comments or changes that they'd like to see in that document. Again, once both parties approve the language of the agreement, formal action from both entities will be required to move forward. And that's action by this body as well as by the Department of Public Safety with the approval of the Georgia State Properties Commission. After that formal action, we'll execute those contracts with the consultants to start the redesign of the facility. There is a portion of the site that has to have a few improvements to it to fit their needs. Once we get those contracts underway and can get the agreement settled, we're probably 3 to 4 months out to construction. The water system administration offices that are currently in that structure will move here on campus, and they will be here for the duration until their facility is constructed on the Macklin site. The Macklin site, the additional property at the Macklin site has been purchased, and now we've got to start that process to get into the design parameters and ultimately what that's going to look like. The water system won't move out of that existing facility until we get the construction documents ready for the construction activities that's going to happen for the Georgia State Patrol Post. So that still gives 2 to 3 months before that move's going to be made over here. So essentially that is where we're at with the State Patrol Post, if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask.
Now, on this particular one, we actually give them the building and renovate it, but there's a restriction in the deed that if they cease to use it for a state patrol post, it comes back to us, correct?
This is, well, there are terms for killing the lease or breaking the lease. Again, it's not a direct transfer of property.
Okay, so this one is
to
not,
the-
this
to
one is
the
just a
state.
lease.
This is just a lease by itself. Again, if, they are allowed to do some improvements if they wish to improve the facility beyond what we've already agreed to. But again, that comes up to them, and then if they do an improvement on site, you know, what can be moved, they're required to move if they break the lease. If the lease is over, if it's a building, that building more than likely will stay with the property.
So after we do the remodeling and any additions to it, as they're there, if there's any maintenance and upkeep, that's still gonna come back to us.
Currently, the agreement set up that they take care of the maintenance of
Right.
the facility. And that's probably going to be one of the comments that will get back. There's also an insurance clause inside that agreement that would require the state to pay that portion or pay that insurance back to us to make sure the facility's covered for the duration of the lease. Okay. The next one is the Department of Driver Services side. That side is currently located here on campus. It's the northwest side of the campus, just off of the courthouse. The state of Georgia decided to sell bonds to cover the cost of the building at $1.2 million. Originally, we had thought that this was going to be a direct grant back to the county, but they chose to use this mechanism for whatever reason it is, which involves another entity, which is the Georgia State Financing Investment Commission, as well as Department of Driver Services. Again, the intent of that $1.2 million that they're providing is to build the building itself. The county will be required to provide the site work to get it to a building pad ready facility. And there's additional construction that's going to go along with that. We're looking to extend the back access road back out to the existing, or the former hospital site that daylights back out to Merchants. So hopefully that'll give us a back access to the property. In order to move forward with the bond sale for the project, this property, this 2 acres that we're talking about where the facility will sit, will have to be transferred to the state of Georgia through GISFIC, which is that financing group. We've worked with them and DDS to provide them necessary surveys, title information, environmental studies. The package for the state to accept this property is large. So we've been working with DDS to make certain that they've got the information that they have so that they can move forward with that bond sale. The formal conveyance of the property to the state should occur next month, provided everything lines up. We're also working with GISFIC's consultant as they will manage the vertical construction on site with the building of the DDS facility. We're trying to make certain that we understand where the line in the sand is between our project that we will bid out and their project, and when they can come on site to start their construction. Once the majority of the site work's complete, like I said, they'll come in, they'll actually take over the site, and they'll finish their building. Right now, we're still working on that schedule element, but the project's 15 to 18 months out from the bond sale to actually be in a facility. So it is a little bit more time, but again, there's 2 projects in one. One's a state project, one's a county project.
When you
Would
say,
you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Would you talk about, what we're trying to do with, CDL licensing and, Dr. Newcomb at, Chattahoochee Tech?
One of the things that came up as we investigated the possibility of having a DDS site here in Paulding, the issue with CDL came up. And there is a great demand for commercial driver's licensing facilities in the state. There are quite a ways to go in order to be tested by a state tester. We've looked around here to see if we could find a parcel that we could actually do it here ourselves. The state is very interested in it. We just don't have a property that's currently owned that we could do that at. So we ended up talking to Chattahoochee Tech and met with their vice president and their dean of operations that's over the CDL school. And they have about 7 acres, 7, 8 acres on their site at their existing campus to actually maybe consider looking at putting a CDL pad. So we had a meeting with the college, with DDS, and with us to see if there was a way for that to happen. We're still in the early stages of it, but they've expressed that they would look to providing that property for that use. So it's still early in the discussions, but it looks like that may be a viable solution.
I'm sorry, Tommy, go ahead.
when you say site work, we'll end up bringing our utilities in, grading it, even possibly providing parking in the roadway.
That is correct. Essentially, what they're going to be responsible for is the building footprint, probably 6 to 10 foot outside of that.
Okay.
Everything else will be on us.
And the numbers, I know in the budget, we put approximately $700,000 in for next year's budget for our part of that. But if we actually do the road, which may make more sense, because once you get into grading, that's probably $700,000 is not gonna cover what it's gonna take, correct?
We just got some early numbers back, and that's looking like that would be shy, to be able to get the road through with that $750,000. Again, I need to sit down and look through those to make certain that we're comparing apples to apples. But we've got enough in there to cover their side portion, whether we pull back to the property line with the road extension, just to stay within that budget number. That's a decision we'll just have to make as we move on in the project.
If you'll keep us, updated on how that's going, I think we travel as far away as 75 to 100 miles to find a CDL licensing place.
That's correct. And, I mean, when we met with Chattahoochee Tech, they actually have a program in ACWORKS where if you go through their program, they have approved testers on site that once they finish the program, they get licensed, which is an advantage that they have over other testing groups in the state. I mean, most of those folks, they're going to train them, then they have to take them somewhere. And when they get into a situation where they got to drive 50, 100 miles away, now they've got to have a staffer who is CDL certified to make certain they don't drive over their time limit. It just becomes a very logistic, a lot of logistics involved to make that happen. And so they were excited with the thought, and even to share that facility with DDS to allow other entities to come in and be tested. They were very supportive of that. Anything else on those items? And again, the backup that I provided in that report, there's a lot of the resolutions and other letters that we've written to the state that I've included in the memo. The last item is the forest management plan update. As you know, the county owns 2,500 acres out of that 7,000 acres currently enrolled in the Paulding Forest Wildlife Management Area. Part of the agreement that we have with the Department of Natural Resources requires the county to perform timber management activities within our portion. And timber management activities are currently ongoing in the remaining 5,000 acres, just from the standpoint that DNR handles those activities. Our agreement requires us to handle those activities. After we met with our local DNR representative, Brent Womack, the county contacted a certified or registered forester to assist us with developing a management plan. Coosa Forestry Services was the forester that we've used to develop that plan, and again, the intent of the plan is to manage the planted and the natural pine stands, which are really a small portion of the overall acreage. The majority of the acreage is hardwoods. There's only about 620 acres that we can surmise that's in the planted in the natural pine stands on the property. So Coosa Forestry Services mapped and assessed the conditions of those stands, and we're really looking for, confirming the age of the stands, the density of the pine stands to make certain to know if they're too thick or too thin. And then once this assessment was completed, they put forth a plan on how to get us back to a managed condition. In addition to the forest management plan that's attached with the report, they developed a initial harvest schedule. And that has thinning activities, it has clear cut activities. And when we say clear cut activities, we're not just going to leave it barren once we go in and do a clear cut. We will go back with probably either a longleaf pine, or we'll go with a loblolly pine. I know the management aspect of it for wildlife, they would rather see the longleaf, which tends to be a little bit of a longer maturity time to get that tree to full growth. But again, they like it from a management and wildlife management standpoint. So anyway, the plans for the thinning and the clear cut scheduled through 2017, that's included in your backup as well. We went back and we revised that timber schedule for this first cut, and it's about 180 acres. We also follow back up with our consultant, Coosa Forestry Services, as well as with DNR, to make certain that we're all on the same page, they understand what we're doing, and that they're included in the loop as we move through the timber sale. But at this point in time, we're ready to move forward with Coosa Forestry to go ahead and manage this timber sale. Again, with the sensitivity of the area, the 2,500 acres, the fact that there's going to be timbering activity directly off US 278, there's no doubt there's going to be questions. This question came up when Pickett's Mill State Park did thinning operations back many years ago. And we got a lot of calls on that. Again, that was essentially the same intent. We're trying to thin it, to preserve it, clear cut it if it's to a mature state, and then go back with another type of vegetation to replace it.
We've also consulted hunting groups and that type of things, and they're been a part of this. And
the hunting groups, we let DNR handle that side of it. Again, that's part of their job in our agreement, is that they manage those the hunting and the schedule. And again, they are aware when we put this timber sale that we will have specific dates where timbering operations will not occur. We don't want to get in the way of anything that's going on from a hunting standpoint. So we will make sure that happens. DNR will be watching the timber sale and the timber operations, as well as our consultant, through the duration of the sale.
Proceeds from the sale has to be turned back into, or has to be spent on the acreage.
That is correct. You can do management activities, which is improving roads, paths, campgrounds, and at this point in time with the state that the roads are in, a lot of that proceeds will go back to making sure that the site is secure and that the roads into the property are maintained. But yes, you're right, and we could buy additional acreage with this money, but we're not talking about a windfall of money coming back to the county.
And it can't be used to pay bond payments or anything, it's gotta be spent.
It has to be spent to roll back into the 2,500 acres, or spent on additional acreage.
And we've not, since we've owned the land, we've not actually really done anything with it.
No, and that's what precipitated where we're at today, is there was a letter that was issued by DNR in late 2012 that essentially said, hey, I just want to reach out to y'all and remind you that we have timbering operations that need to be done, we have some burning activities we need to do, and we need a management plan from you. So that's why I'm up here today.
thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we're at a portion of our meeting where we have public participation on agenda items. We have Lynn Bellini, 3 Indian Lake Court, Hiram, on new business item number 4. Did I say that right?
Faculty, yes, sir. I thank you, gentlemen, for the time. I have 2 comments I'd like to make on agenda number 4. Number 1, is the name of the airport Paulding Northwest Atlanta Airport, or is it called Silver Comet Field? The sign is draped, Silver Comet Field. What is the name of the airport?
Well, you have, I'll answer that for you. You have Charlie Brown Field at Fulton County Airport, and you have fields, and then you have the name of the airport. So usually it's dual
Okay, are we gonna change the sign to say that?
when there's money available.
All right. Number two, as part of the $176,856.60, I would like to ask the commissioners to consider before they do any voting on that they be apprised of the lawsuit filed by Sidney Austin to Justin Turner of the Atlanta EPA about all of the violations of the trout streams and the runoffs and things like that. And if they're not aware of it, I believe that the airport authority has the documents. And as a taxpayer in Paulding County, I feel that we have put a lot of good money into something that may have a very shaky future, and I'd like to ask that they stop spending our tax money until all the lawsuits about the airport have been stopped and settled. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have a question. The lawsuit that you referenced, my understanding of the copies I have is just, it's not an actual suit at this time. It's
I believe
just
it's a
letter.
request for cease and desist all construction. I have not read the entire, I just had seen excerpts of it. It was filed here in Atlanta with the Atlanta EPA on June 17th.
Commissioner Graham, I think that is my understanding right now. It's a letter requesting that. I am not aware of an actual lawsuit filing. And it's understandable people oftentimes don't distinguish those two things, but they are different.
Thank you. Consent agenda item, discuss 3 consent agenda items. Number 1, we appoint Terry Harris to the Paulding County Library Board with a term ending July 1, 2017. Declare items listed as surplus and approve their disposal to the auction or trade. DOT truck, 98 Ford, with accompanying serial number. Marshall truck unit 468, it's 2000 F1250. Marshall truck unit 472, 2004 Ford F250 with accompanying serial number. Water truck unit 226, 2001 Ford F150, serial number. Water truck unit 272, 2000 Ford F150, serial number. Sheriff van unit 69, 1996 Ford van, with serial number. Sheriff car unit 64, 2004 Crown Vic, serial number. Sheriff car unit S180, 2005 Ford, with a accompanying serial number. And recreation car 453 Ford Crown Vic with serial number. Number 3, subdivision streets accepted for perpetual care maintenance, 7 Hills, Unit 1A, Bent Leaf Drive, Sugar Maple Lane, Red Cedar Way. 7 Hills, Unit D, Waterlace Lane, Waterlace Court. 7 Hills, Unit F2, Ivy Hall Lane, Jasmine Way, Snapdragon Lane, Lantana Court. 7 Hills Unit 1, Ivy Hall Lane, Wagon Oak Trail, Spanish Oak Way, and Mayflower Court. And Town Park Drive. Would you like to move any of these consent agenda items to regular session?
I have a question. On the streets, none of these they were all paid by the developer, right? These were completed. These are not part of the
That's correct.
idea.
And we're happy to have a prettier face than Scott Green, Erica Parrish, with us today. You're a nice replacement for Scott. There's no old business. Under new business, discuss action to authorize the implementation of fiscal year 2014 early retirement plan for the Paulding County Sheriff's Office and Fire Department effective June 30, 2014. Mike Jones, would you speak on this? Brian's out on vacation.
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. This is an extension of what we began last year. We've expanded it. Last year it included the sheriff's office, and there's some criteria that have to be met. You have to have a certain number of years in your position, 10 years specifically or more, and you have to be 60 years or older by June 30th. This year we expanded it to include the fire department. We weren't quite sure how that program would go last year. We didn't have as many folks sign up for it as were eligible, and the same holds true this year. There are only 8 folks that meet the early retirement criteria, and of those 8, we've only received commitments from 2 that are interested. The short of it is you're paid out for your vacation and your sick time as you would if you leave employment, so there's really no change there. But there is a payment of $1,000 a month for you to provide your own supplemental insurance. That's a reduction in what we would pay that employee if they stayed in employment in Paulding County. As we discussed last year, the positions for the sheriff's office and the fire department are a little bit different in terms of their physical requirements than many other positions. I used myself as an example last year, and I'll do it again. You can do my job at age 65. You can't run into burning buildings and chase down criminals at age 65, and certainly not as effective as we would like to see these folks be. So it does present some difficulties in those 2 departments. Many jurisdictions around Atlanta offer early retirement as early as 50. Ours is 60. Many of them have mandatory retirement at age 55. Our mandatory retirement is at 65. This is a program to help those that are done with their careers to leave early. We all know, regardless of what job you have, whether you're in the government or out of government, the biggest hurdle to reaching retirement is how do you close the insurance gap? How do you bridge the time you leave employment until the time you're eligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and this is the avenue that allows that to happen. So this also provides a retention tool for the younger folks that are coming up through those ranks. It opens up the senior positions and allows promotions. You can make one promotion at the top and promote several folks below that who ultimately get promoted from within. If you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And in short, there'll be 1 person retiring from the sheriff's office and 1 from the fire department that have come forward so far. Our exposure is about $90,000 for FY15.
And now you say $1,000 toward the insurance there. It's not actually paid, it's put into a reimbursement account, and if it can be used on medical expenses or to purchase insurance, so it's not just handed to people.
Yeah, medical reimbursement account.
Okay, and then the criteria is in the sheriff's department, they actually have to be, for lack of a better word, certified police officer. I mean, it's not.
It's not licensed of all employees, that's correct. Post-certified officers in the sheriff's department.
And with fire department.
Firefighters within the fire department.
Certified firefighters. Okay.
Any other questions?
That, you said that 90,000 was total, including what we already did last year.
Now,
Is that
this
right?
is the program that's in front of you today. Our exposure for this program that's in front of you, if you choose to vote for it, would be roughly $90,000. It depends, every person is different. Depends on how much vacation time they've had saved up, how much sick time they have saved up. But we estimate the exposure to be about $90,000. Of course, half of that would come out of the fire fund for the firefighter, and the balance of that, about $45,000, would come from the general fund. Understand that in this coming budget year, we have assumed that they're not retiring. So we have fully funded their salary and their insurance for the entire year. So you will recoup those dollars if they retire early, because you won't be paying the salary and the insurance.
So the 90,000 is if everyone participated?
No,
Yes, sir. That is what we believe the exposure is if there are 2. You have an exposure that exceeds $500,000 if all 8 do, but they've been made pretty clear.
your exposure, I misunderstood you. Your exposure was counting the vacation and sick days. It was everything. The package.
That's everything.
That's why I was.
Again, some of those dollars, that's a little misleading. That's what will be paid out. That's why I want to
Gotcha.
make clear. But many of those dollars, and I would venture to say more than half of those dollars, they're encumbered dollars anyway. If they left tomorrow, we would owe them their sick time and their vacation, even if they did retire.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 2, discuss action to authorize the chairman to execute a contract amendment with Astor Group Incorporated in an amount of $129,069.96 for the rock removal and landscaping related to the construction of the West Memorial Sheriff's Training Facility. Chuck.
Well, hello again. All right. This is another amendment to adjust the contract for Astor Group for the new sheriff training facility located on West Memorial. Again, it's just like the item reads, it's related to rock-related items in the shooting range, as well as some landscaping items that we needed to address specifically. Comprehensive Program Services, which is our construction management team on site, has worked with Astra to develop the additional costs. And again, what we're trying to do is mitigate the amount of rock that we have to deal with. And the solution in front of you today is where we think the best effort is to do that. That amounts to $129,000, which will bring the revised project total to just over $1.7 million. And I've got the information in the backup that shows you a few pictures of the site where we've encountered some of the rock material. Most of it that we've encountered was weathered material. We were anticipating that. The mass rock is the item that we did not anticipate as much of. So with that being said, if you have any particular questions on specifics, I can take those.
The last time you were here for a change order, you mentioned to us that once you got into, what this is what you would refer to trench rock, because you got to run your lines and things of that, some of it, that you knew you had it, you just didn't know what it was going to be.
The specific locations, and that was directly related to the trench rock tied to the sewer and the storm sewer. We may have another avenue to address that, but specifically with this, this is in that training or the shooting range itself. The first one that we talked about last time I was up here dealt with the building pad, and that has been accomplished. The pad, the parking lot, it has been worked out. This deals with just that training area itself. The sewer issue with the trench rock, we're trying to navigate another avenue in order to offset that cost, and you can see that credit in this amendment that's in front of you today.
Now, the landscaping, is it due to additional work you had to do with the rock, or is it something where you added after the fact? I think that's your intent.
That's actually mine. Hopefully, community builder will turn it off. At any rate, repeat your question one more time.
That was great timing, wasn't it?
Mine, did you call him?
The
landscaping that's additional, is that caused by the trench rock, or is it adjustment?
No, the landscaping is not. The original project bid had planted seed and grass. As we worked through the project, one item that came up was, well, what is this final surface at the training area? And we said, well, it is planted grass, which means on day one it could be a mud. And again, with the maintenance that's associated with trying to get that grass down, sod is the better avenue, and so that's the cost that you're seeing with the landscaping. The rest of the site is minimal on the landscaping. Essentially, go back with grass, seed, and straw.
Now, of course, this is the third change order I think you've come to us with. But here's what my question is. We've allotted so much money of SPLOSH for this facility, so as we move forward, some things may have to be trimmed and looked at other avenues. In other words, it's not just this ballooning project and it's gonna.
No, these changes did come at a price. Again, we had a 10,000 square foot metal building that was going to be built in conjunction with this, and we did have the capacity to do that. Getting in $300,000 with the changes that are directly associated with the rock, which the last two have been, this one and the last one. The first one was an amendment to increase scope to build the shooting tower or the range building. But it does come at a cost, and the cost right now is that we're not going to build that building at this point in time. We're looking at temporary facilities, working with the school board right now at one of their modular systems that they have. I don't know if that's going to work, we're still early on that. If we can't make that work, we'll work some other temporary facility out so that we can mitigate that cost.
And the sheriff's aware of all this and understands the numbers.
He is aware of it, he is. I'll let him speak to the other on.
Right, but I mean, it's not just, we're not just
No.
keep pumping money. There's a
No.
bottom, there's so much that's allotted and then.
That's
That's
correct,
it.
and we're into our building portion at this point.
Okay, number 3, discuss action on amendment to the engineering services agreement with Arcadis US Incorporated for purposes of conducting treatability studies and pilot scale elevations of treatment technologies proposed for the drinking water treatment plant as part of the Richland Creek Reservoir project at a cost of $486,468. Michael.
Morning.
Morning.
This is for continuing with the design of the water treatment plant, which is part of the Richland Creek Reservoir project. Specifically, we're proposing to pilot test 2 of the treatment technologies that being included in the treatment process train. One of them is the dissolved air flotation, and the other one is the granular activated carbon. All of this pilot testing will be set up at the Cobb-Marietta Water Authority's Wyckoff plant over on Lake Allatoona, because that's the closest plant that's out there that we can, that utilizes essentially the same source water that ours will use. And also, they have allowed us access to their lab for sample testing through this phase. The dissolved air flotation is the primary solids removal mechanism for the new treatment process. As part of it, we utilize equipment from 2 of the leading dissolved air flotation vendors, and we'll test both of these over a wide range of loading rates. This will allow us a side-by-side comparison of the 2 and verify that the equipment can maintain the acceptable performance over our specified range of hydraulic loading rates. The equipment for this, which is included in this price, will be rented from 2 of the leading manufacturers on dissolved air flotation. One of them is IDI and the other one is Leopold. On the granular activated carbon side, that's needed for removal of organic compounds from the finished water. Organics are the precursors for the disinfectant byproducts, for taste and odor causing compounds, and for contaminants of emerging concern that's on EPA's list. They're not regulated yet, but they are watched. Granular activated carbon treatment is also needed to comply with EPA's Stage 2 disinfectant byproducts rule. Reason for this testing is there are several different types of granular activated carbon media that's out there. It's made from a couple different types of coal. It's made from wood. It's made from coconut shells. And as granular activated carbon treatment continues, there's other sources that's being tested and will come available in the future. Pilot testing this will allow us to determine performance of these various types of media under varying hydrologic loading conditions or hydraulic loading conditions, and will also help us in determining life cycle maintenance cost of this proposed facility. Granular activated carbon removes these organics through a process called adsorption, which means that once the media has met its absorptive capacity, it has to be replaced and regenerated, or removed and regenerated and replaced. So determining which one of these medias will work best for us will have a big impact on future maintenance costs of this facility.
We have some experience with Cobb-Marietta being on that board, and implementing this activated carbon for us was a huge step, and we, I believe, dealt with Calgon in that area. And then recently, to be able to save money, they are able to come and take our carbon and refire it and then add to it, and they guarantee you that they will give you back your same carbon, but there's a huge savings from that standpoint. So I'm impressed with that part of the process and what it's been able to do for Commerce Water, and essentially all of Paulding's.
Equipment for this phase of the pilot testing will be purchased because it will be utilized for optimization studies later in the process after the treatment facility is constructed. Schedule for it is approximately 8 months, and the reason that you're seeing this now is the granular activated carbon section of this is driving the schedule because you have your highest production of disinfectant byproducts during summer months. So we need to test as much during summer months as we can. All of this effort will go towards gaining EPD approval of our water treatment plant process, and funding is through the $2.8 million GFA planning loan. Any questions?
In English, in other words, the DAF, we're testing, we're reading the equipment because we're seeing which one's the best.
We're testing manufacturers with that technology as much as anything.
And the GAC, we know we gotta do it, so we're buying the equipment, we're testing the stuff you put in it.
Correct.
Okay. And it's my understanding that it's gotta be done in order to get
EPD approval.
I mean, it's gotta be done at some stage.
Yes,
Anyway, it's just one of those things you have to do. So it's not,
they're going to ask for the test results from these. They want to see, as this, this drinking water treatment is public health, so they want tried and proven.
so when you actually design your plant, you know what you're using.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You let the public know where the $486,468 is coming from?
Yes, coming from the $2.8 million GFA planning loan that we executed back in 2012.
And that the payments are paid out of general fund.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, discuss action to approve a change order for the modification of slopes and drainage structures within the Runway 31 Safety Overrun Project at the Paulding Northwest Atlanta Airport as submitted by Plateau Excavation in the amount of $176,856.60. Blake Swafford.
Morning.
Good morning.
Going back to July 23rd, 2013, this board voted unanimously to approve a grant from the FAA passed through the Georgia DOT in an amount not to exceed $2 million for the construction of the runway safety area improvements off the end of runway 31. Subsequent to that, you approved a contract with Plateau Excavation in the amount of $1,555,000. $134.93. That work has been completed. Upon completion of that work, there were some issues that were discovered. One of those being that the drainage area that is feeding to the southeastern corner of the safety area was larger than what was calculated in the design. Second being that the elevation of the runway safety area was higher on the west end than what was originally planned for in the design. And the third being that the drainage swells which carry the water between the structures were narrowed due to the design trying to prevent the slopes from overlapping the perimeter road that runs around the airport. Due to those 3 issues, upon completion of this project, we took another look at it and determined that we needed to make some additional modifications to the safety area. Ultimately, what this will do, what this change order will do, is it will decrease the slope in that safety area, and it will increase the size of the drainage structures. So it will decrease the likelihood that we will ever have a blowout in
Which
that.
you actually did have, correct?
That is correct. The blowout that we had previously was during the construction, or right at the end of the construction, so it was handled by contractor. There was no cost to us for that. Also, all of that silt was maintained on the site. We didn't lose anything off of the site. However, that was what started us looking at that drainage basin and trying to determine whether or not any changes needed to be made to that drainage basin. So ultimately, we took the modification to the FAA and Georgia DOT. They agreed that these changes needed to be made. Therefore, the Georgia DOT has already made an increase in the grant that was issued in 2013 to pay for these changes, 90% of these changes. The LPA group did have some liability in this because of the oversights in the design. Therefore, they have designed the fix at no cost to us. They're also going to oversee the construction management of this at no cost to us. So at the end of the day, we will have a runway safety area that has better storm drainage features and less runoff, and decreases the likelihood significantly that there'll ever be another blowout of any kind in that runway safety area. I do also want to say that this runway safety area has absolutely nothing in the world to do with the letter from Mr. Steenland to the EPD. That letter addressed storm buffer variances that were in the terminal apron expansion area, which is on the north side of the airport, adjacent to the airport technology park. So it's not even in the same vicinity on the airport, and has nothing to do with the two have nothing to do with each other. So if there's questions, I would have to address them.
This is not in the area that the airport's having to get the new environmental assessment on, correct?
That is correct. This area was already cleared in previous documents with the EPD and with the FAA both.
Okay. And in the fix, in reality, they're just raising the line, which really should have been done, and in their design, because they did not have the proper elevation at the end of the runway, they would have done it that way anyway.
That's correct. If we had known about the elevation difference prior to starting construction, this is what we would have built. So we're not undoing anything. We're simply adding in additional fill that ultimately should have been there to begin with. So the only thing that is being undone, so to speak, is the drainage structures will have to be taken up and reset once the additional dirt's put in. So.
You said the LPA group, so they're doing the work basically for no cost?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Because they're admitting to a mistake, or?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, but yet, we bear the cost of the 176,000. We're gonna be paying for it.
Well, you have a grant that is covering 90% of the cost of that.
Right, but we're still spending that money.
Not following.
Well, they, in other words, they've admitted they're doing their work because they've admitted to doing something wrong. Am I correct?
That they had a mistake in their calculations.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so we're still spending the 176,000, no matter where it is, the grant or anything else, because it wasn't done correctly the first time, I guess. Is that what? And I know Tommy kind of addressed that a minute ago, so I'm trying to understand that.
To put this in, I guess, as simple terms as I can put it, the runway safety area looks about like this. The slope is a little too steep, and the drainage structures are a little undersized. So it's going to be brought up. We're going to add dirt in and oversize the drainage structures. That's what should have been done to begin with. So we're not doing something that shouldn't. This should have been done from the very beginning. So this money should have already been spent, because this is the way it should have been built. So it's not that we're spending money above and beyond what we should have. This fix is actually what should have been done originally.
I know it still costs a little more money to redo something than it does if you're doing it from the beginning.
Well, we're still under the existing contract with Plateau, so it doesn't, because they still have unit prices from the original contract. We didn't close out that contract. This is simply a change order to it. So the unit prices are still what they were.
So if it had been designed right, then we would already have this completed.
That is correct.
Okay. When you go out to the airport and you look out at the runway, are we talking about the left-hand side, going down to the left-hand end of the runway?
Yes, sir, the east end of the airport, yes, sir.
Will you be out there at the airport this afternoon?
Yes, sir.
To where I could come out there maybe 4 o'clock and take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know it's raining, but that's okay. I don't care.
Fine with me.
Is that good with you?
Absolutely.
I'll
You
wear
may
my
have
boots.
to walk, unless you got a four-wheel drive.
You can take me out there, I can walk
Yes, sir. We
around
can do
4
that.
o'clock. Because I went out there before and taken a look at that area before several months ago with somebody else, and was kind of highly criticized for comments and questions that I had concerning some of that. And now this issue's come up, so, but you and I can talk about that this afternoon. I would like to ask, I know you sent us a email. Our backup did say 136,000, and now it's at the 176. So Plateau had left something off, or?
Yeah, it was just simply a mistake in the spreadsheet. And all these spreadsheets have formulas in them, they're supposed to carry everything through, and if you don't go through and check the spreadsheet thoroughly, then you end up with a mistake, that's what happened here.
But I thought it was due to a change that the state
The state DOT brought it to our attention that the numbers didn't match what they had, so when we went back and checked the spreadsheet, they were correct, our numbers were incorrect on the spreadsheet, but the state DOT brought it to our attention.
Okay. And then you had said something at the very beginning of your comments just now, that this board approved this in 2013.
The grant.
The grant, what was the date of that?
The date of that was July 23rd, 2013.
Okay.
And the point of bringing that to your attention is because we don't need to approve the increase in the grant, because the grant is still way below.
We're covered. We're covered.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And this work does not, like Tommy asked, does not interfere with any of the lawsuits where they've told us to stop work out there. I mean, we did what we were told we could do, but we couldn't go any further. So are we breaking any rules here?
No, so this is under the runway safety area. There were two things the FAA told us to finish up with the lawsuit settlement. One of those was the runway safety area, and the other was the taxiway widening. So this is still underneath the original work that the FAA told us to finish up with. And we have gone back to the FAA and confirmed that they are okay with us finishing this, because as I said, this is what should have been built to begin with. So they realize this has to be fixed, or otherwise we're continuously monitoring it for runoff problems and blowouts. So.
Blake, for my notes and review, would you mind repeating the number 3 issue discovered? Okay.
The drainage swells that connect together the drainage structures, they were designed pretty narrow because they didn't want the slope of the runway safety area to overlap the perimeter road, which, as you recall, out at the airport, the perimeter road is kind of down on the second tier.
Right.
They didn't want to overrun that tier with the slope. So they designed those swells fairly narrow, which would have been okay if not for the problem with the drainage area and the slope. So it was a combination of all 3 things. I can't say it's one thing specifically, but it's a combination of the 3.
Okay.
You had made a comment, that, or Mike had, maybe I'm wrong. Somebody had said we did have a blowout out there at one time, is that right?
Tommy brought that up.
Okay.
At the end of the construction period, before we had grass stabilization, we did have a blowout, and we took a look at, started taking a look at why that occurred, and that's what brought us to this redesign. That blowout was fixed by the contractor. Since the grass wasn't stabilized at the time, it was still his responsibility to maintain that.
But all that stayed on our property at the airport.
It did, and when you come out this afternoon, I can show you, this was the top tier where the blowout happened, and we have a large area on that second tier down, which is a large flat area, so that's where that silt settled out. So, fortunately, the way we've designed this, we have multiple ways to catch the silt, and even if it got past that plateau, it would have still gone into a silt pond, but it didn't even get to the silt pond because of that plateau area there.
Okay.
Thank you, Blake.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
That's the conclusion of regular business session. There's no executive session. No public participation. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Thank you all for being here. Told them